How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today's video we've got one of the tanks that gets very underestimated within World of Tanks, and that is the Batchat 25t AP. We'll go through why that is and what it's like after the most recent update on World of Tanks console. So first things first, what is the Batchat 25t AP? Well, it is a tier 9 French medium tank with an autoloader. This one is currently the fairly stock version of the Batchat 25t AP. We haven't got the top gun, which gets a 300 alpha damage gun. Instead, this one has 240 alpha damage. Now, of course, on that bigger gun, it's got a longer reload, and I think it gets 60 more alpha damage, of course, which means that we'll be able to actually dish out more damage in one clip, at least, when you get the top package on the Batchat 25t AP. This thing's got mobility, so you can move around a little bit. It's not particularly the fastest one to get up to top speed, but that's with an engine that wasn't fully upgraded, I don't believe, in this video, but in the next gameplay we'll take a look at what it actually gets up to top speed with its full engine boost. Now, this game, what's kind of special about this game? Well, we had a pretty decent game overall. We managed to pick up a decent amount of damage, and we also managed to kind of move around and make sure that we were in a position to help out our team at all points. Now, you'll see which position I've taken here. We've managed to take the kind of this hill area, which is a vital point to push up to on both sides, and you'll see that the enemy A44 and also the Progetto, I think it is, have also moved down here to be able to get some shots onto us, whereas we're trying to just feather shots onto our opponents whenever we can. For the most part, we are just trying to spot for our artillery and avoid enemy artillery, and just be a little bit optimistic that we're going to get some shots in here. Don't necessarily know if we'll get any shots, but at least we were getting some spotting damage, and we're on 16 and 618 of that. Now, making sure that you choose the right kind of rounds as well is something that you'll need to know in your autoloaders, and that's one of the key things I find with the Batchat 25t AP, is making sure that you're not always firing the AP bit of the 25t. Now, making sure that you fire some heat rounds as and when you need it, and making sure that you put yourself in a position where you can outflank your opponents, like you're about to see here on the standard B. It wasn't a Progetto even, it was a standard B. So what you can do is just make sure that you're moving, maintaining some sort of accuracy, don't go too fast, and then you want to just put out as much damage as possible. Obviously, you see here the intra-clip reload of about 1.8 seconds here as we shut down the A44 there. Now, 1000 damage, I think, or it might just be 1020 spotting. We don't know, because Wargaming still haven't fixed the XP counter covering the amount of damage that you're doing in the game. Don't know why they still haven't fixed that. Seems like such a simple fix for them to literally just move the hitbox down so that it's not in the way. But of course, Wargaming decide that that's not important, and in releasing new skins is. But yeah, that's not my my decision. Now, we're trying to get some shots into here. We have pretty poor aim, let's not beat around the bush, that's pretty awful. We put 2 into him, and now it's time to be aggressive towards the KV4. This is where the mobility of the Batchat 25t AP comes in. Of course, you are pretty slow at turning. It is a typical French tank. Most of them are pretty slow at turning. Not going to be a tank that you're particularly going to enjoy if you're trying to outmaneuver someone. They're kind of slow, sluggish and that sort of thing, but it is getting you ready for the Batchat 25t, which is the tier 10, and you don't often see that now. I don't know why that is. I don't know whether it's because players are moving on to more newer tanks and leaving some of the older ones behind, the E5, the Batchat 25t, don't really know. But of course, when I get the 25t, we'll give it a go and see if it still holds up in today's current meta when I manage to get my hands on it. Of course, I'm working towards that now, and it might be the next tier 10 that I try and pick up. I did see a comment yesterday about the Batchat 25t and whether I'd be able to do a review on it. And of course, I guess this is kind of a little bit of one in terms of that kind of playstyle, making sure that you're mobile and making sure that you spot for your opponents, for your teammates. By spotting the opponents, you're going to be able to have some better games overall. We've picked up 2000 damage. We've done 781 assistance, which is nice. Not particularly the best game you'll ever see, but what it does do is kind of show you some things that you can do. Now, first things first, trying to spot the opponent, well, the opponents in the cap, which means that we can get some more damage, and maybe we can get some assistance damage. Now, currently bouncing off the side of that spaced armor Trini, yeah, it's just an absolute nightmare to come up against, unfortunately. We do try for the turret there, which is the kind of weak point. I just thought maybe I'd be going through the side of it, but apparently spaced armor is just way too fun for that guy to be able to actually get penned in the side when he's sitting side on. But yeah, I guess we should have loaded the premium rounds. Now, what are we doing here? Well, we're just currently just waiting it out. We're not going to do anything rash yet. What we need to do is get rid of the STRVK, so we're going to move around this left hand side to maneuver and make sure that we can get him out of the game, but unfortunately for me, but luckily our teammate takes him out, and what we're going to do now is almost kill ourselves by jumping off of a cliff. But what we do now is move on to try and take out the ST1, who's actually realised that we were coming round to the side of him. Same with the Conqueror in a second when he actually decides. I don't actually shoot there until the last second, which I was hoping that we'd be able to actually get a shot. We get hit from the right, which makes it annoying. What we do is try and track the Conqueror. He misses us, which is really thankful actually, and we can now make our swift, well, kind of swift escape to try and avoid any more shots from the enemy team. Of course, using the terrain to our advantage, using that kind of dip within the ground to be able to avoid some. We know that there's a heavy behind us, but we need to keep moving, so we can't just turn around and look at him. We put one into the Black Prince there, who's the heavy. We track him, and then with the second shot, we retrack him, and you'll see why that is so important in this game in just a second. That little tracking shot that we got on him as our RU-251, I believe, on our team hits him, and then you'll just see the assistance damage racking up in the top right as we just keep getting assistance damage on the Black Prince. Once again, there we go, more assistance damage. We're just constantly getting extra assistance damage, which makes our game better. Well, of course, we're going to have more base XP in the game. We're going to be able to progress towards the Batchat 25t, which is the aim of playing this tank. And of course, they're very similar in the playstyle that you'll be using when playing in the Batchat 25t. Now, one tank destroyer left on their team. Artillery tries to go for me because, of course, he's in the town. We know that he's there. We see that the T28, I believe it is, has just jumped off the cliff for some reason. Don't quite know what he was trying there, but we put one into him with a heat round. That is the only rounds we have left, so it's not because we're just firing them willy-nilly at artillery that we don't actually need. But there we go. We do manage to pick up some damage. We managed to pick up some enemies destroyed, we managed assistance, we managed basically to have a really good game overall in the Batchat 25t, which is definitely a tank you don't see within World of Tanks console. And there you go, 8 kills, 4,035 damage, 2,171 base XP. We also picked up quite a few medals. We managed to pick up 50,000 silver, just under. We managed 3,956 assistance, bringing the grand total just shy of 8,000 combined damage, which would have been a fantastic game, regardless of what tier you are. And of course, this is tier 9. We picked up the Mastery Badge, Radley Walters, Devastator, Bruiser, Spotter, I believe. We picked up Top Gun, Fire for Effect, and the Duelist medal. So yeah, really nice round in terms of the medals. We picked up a few of the epic ones there, the Devastator and the Radley Walters. And of course, coming top of the team with that kind of base XP is, you know, the games that you sort of look for when you're playing World of Tanks console. Now we have got one more game to look at, and we'll do that in just a second. The next game is here on Fisherman's Bay. This is obviously quite a good map for a medium tank that has a little bit of gun depression and the ability to spot. I always know that at the beginning of the game you can get a decent amount of assistance if you go into the position that I'm about to show. This is a position that basically allows you to spot your opponents whilst remaining undetected for the most part. Of course, I'm in a pretty boxy medium tank that isn't going to really have that great concealment. But if we put ourselves in this kind of position up here, use the bushes, I do note that I get spotted straight away, and so that's why you'll see me turning the hole, so I'm facing away, so as soon as the opponents are coming towards me, I can get out the way. There we go, we managed to avoid the T49, because if we rammed into that, we'd have lost a lot more hit points than the amount that we actually did. And of course, you don't want to take extra damage when someone's just being a silly person that decides to YOLO in at the beginning of the game in a light tank that's top tier, yeah, not something you should be doing at all. Now, we try and spot over this left hand side. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be too many people coming over there, because we would have spotted a few of them. And you can see over on the left hand side of the map, or from the right hand side of where I am right now, that quite a few people have pushed up. Now, 50t, this is exactly why you don't want to be in that tank in that kind of position, is that you can get picked apart by all of the medium tanks. We do try and put one more into him, but unfortunately we don't hit him, and the projector there decides he's going to ram into me and avoid me from actually being able to do anything. He does say sorry, so I guess it's not so bad, but it is annoying when you're trying to hit something that you've just tracked and someone drives straight into you. But then again, that's World of Tanks. Everyone is tending to do that, to be honest. And what you'll see me do here is that I did note that the yellow or the white outline actually appeared, and that we could get a shot into him. And we just broke his engine there, which is very, very unfortunate for him, and we managed to pick up the final amount of damage. This game is not one of those that's going to be superb. It's just one that I thought showcased what sort of thing you can do in the tank, the kind of top speed. This is one with the engine boost that I've unlocked, going like 60 kilometers an hour up to 65 of the max top speed of the tank, which is fairly good. And also making sure that you guys know that sometimes you don't just have these crazy games. I think showcasing some of the ones where you just make the best of a situation, and showing you, you know, those games where it's not just everything went exactly how you planned it, and that these games are kind of crucial, I would say, because sometimes I feel like if I just upload the best replays, people don't see what kind of scenarios there actually happens when things don't go your way 99% of the time. And I think that that's important, because obviously if you're just playing a game whereby you're only seeing the best results, then you don't see what you should be doing in the worst result matchups and when something goes wrong. And this isn't particularly one of the worst cases that I've ever seen, but what it is it does showcase like the sort of things you can do to just promote your team to get that win at the end of the game, and when they're kind of stalling and not providing enough kind of support. As we put one into the defender, it's a really nice position, this one. You can get a few shots, however you should note that you can get hit from a lot of different directions if you move away from this house, so it's a really, really good spot to take at the beginning of the game. But just be wary from that right hand side where you saw me shooting at the defender, but that is a position that I've used many a time to be able to get some shots onto the opponents that push aggressively on the left hand side of the map. Now, decent game so far, 2,228 damage. However, this is where it begins to stall, and we don't seem to be doing anywhere near as much of an impact within the game. I know that the Batchat says it's red, however we know that it's got spaced armor, and spaced armor shows up red on the armor viewer whether or not you can actually pen it or not anyway. Now, what I was trying to do, however, is actually shoot in between the actual mantlet of the tank and the spaced shield that kind of goes either side of the mantlet, because you can pen the Batchat there, but it is very, very hard to be able to hit. Of course, you didn't see me actually hit it in the game, and so, you know, at least we gave it a try. And when you're in an autoloader that isn't going to be doing anything for the next couple of minutes, then I guess, you know, taking out as many chances as possible to get some extra damage is always good. Object 277 here. We do try and put one into the side of him, but we don't get any, because if we did, we'd have seen the enemy damaged ribbon up in the top right. I decide that it is now time to move up, because if we don't move up, what's going to happen is they're going to be using the bushes, which are really, really much better where they are, to be able to remain undetected and only shoot at us when we are not detected. Now, what we're doing here, I know that there's a Dragon back there. I thought that by being here we'd be able to actually outspot the Dragon so that he couldn't just sneak attack us. And I do try and shoot at the pattern that I knew would be there, but he gets spotted just before, or the Vengeance. And so now it's time to pull back a little bit, reload, and then reassess the situation and come from a different approach. I know that if I leave, we're not going to have too much of anything to do, so I need to stay here, or I need to do something. So right now what I'm thinking is I need to go down over to the left, avoid these bushes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide the support and the spotting for the team. Just be aggressive. What it might do is then distract the enemy so that they can't just sit there in the open using the bushes to be able to shoot my opponents that are going to be moving through an open field. And since I'm here first, it just completely nullifies their position up there, and they're not going to be able to do very much because basically I'm here being a pest. It doesn't have to have an impact to the actual damage or the assistance damage that you do, but as long as you just basically stop the opponents from doing anything, then that is always a good thing from me. Just because someone doesn't necessarily have the damage or the assistance or they destroyed enemies in a battle doesn't mean that they didn't have a really good impact, because sometimes trading your health or using your hit points to help your teammates out is something you do have to do sometimes, just to be able to put pressure on the opponents, actually secure the victory and kind of push forward with an advancement that's actually going to help out the team. I put one into the Barras because that has a horrible gun. Then you don't want to get double pumped by the Barras, because trust me, when you get pumped it's not necessarily very fun. But yeah, what we do now is just make sure that we avoid the damage from this guy, and we're just going to ram him, or at least I tried to ram him and maybe get some extra damage, but nonetheless we don't get any more damage from that game, and we do manage to pick up 3,178 damage, 636 assistance. We got a few challenges done, and we're working towards getting that 100 level on the season pass. So yeah, other than showing you the Batchat 25t AP, of course, this really fun tank to play. It's definitely one you don't see on the battlefield, and it's one that's kind of underrated. You've got to play it very well, I guess, in order to have those games. I could see why new players probably wouldn't want to play the Batchat 25t AP, because it is kind of one of those tanks that does require a little bit of skill or a little bit knowledge of where you need to stay undetected and when to push, and also when to use your autoloader correctly, because sometimes I see people all of the time actually YOLOing in with their autoloader, thinking they can just auto aim someone on the move, waste their entire shell clip, maybe get one shot of damage, and then they get taken out from full health because they've just gone in too hard. And what happens when you're on a long ass reload in front of tanks that aren't autoloaders or even enemy autoloaders, you're going to get shut down very quickly, especially when you've got no kind of negating them from pushing you, because once someone knows that you're reloading, of course they're going to push you hard, and that tends to happen quite a lot on World of Tanks console. And I think people need to kind of take that, use the bit of advice with regards to using autoloaders, and maybe I'll do an autoloader guide for you guys very soon, so that you can kind of get to grips with how to play autoloaders if you don't know already. Of course, if you're a better player than me, then leave me some tips in the autoloaders down in the comment section down below. But of course, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all of the channel members that have given that little bit extra, as well as every single one of you who have watched this video to this point. It does really mean the world to me. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.